Hello. So the lovely people at XP Pen gifted me this tablet. It's the Innovator16 tablet, and I thought, why not do a comparison of all the different tablets I've used, whether it's for computers, whether it's like an iPad. I just want to, I guess, give you my 2 cents about how I think of each tablet so that you might have a better understanding of like which one would fit your art better. And just as like a little background, I've used a handful of different tablets throughout my art career. The first one I ever got was like the tiny Wacom tablet. It was like white with like a blue circle on top, and the drawing area was like literally like a 5x6 space. Like it was super tiny, and I don't have that anymore. I think I gave it to someone. I think I gave it to a family friend a while back. Yeah, that was like one of the most basic ones with like enough pen pressures for a middle schooler that I was, and it did the job. And senior year of high school, I realized that that just wasn't cut out for what I wanted to make, because I was starting to apply to art colleges and that tiny little thing wasn't cutting it. So my dad actually got me this Intuous 5 in the medium size. The drawing space is maybe, I want to say like 2 to 2.5 times bigger than what I had before, and there was more pressure sensitivity levels on here, and overall it was just a better tablet for professional work. It came with this pen, and this was able to be connected through USB, so it was wireless, or you could use the wire. It's a pretty standard tablet. I have 8 buttons, the quick keys up here. There's a button in the center and a touch circle thing. Yes. I want to say I used this for the last year of high school and the beginning 3 years of college when I went to art school. And this did well enough for what I was doing, but what I hate about these types of tablets is you can't see what you're drawing on, because you have to have like hand-eye coordination. The tablet's down here, the screen is in front of you, and you draw like this, which I really hated. I never liked doing that, and that's why I think I strayed away from doing digital paintings for a long time, because I hated this way of drawing a lot. And then eventually, because I went to art school, they had computer labs and they were filled with Cintiqs, so I was able to also try out the Cintiqs for a bit. Those machines are huge. I want to say they're the 22-inch ones, and they're pretty hefty machines. They're like computers themselves. And then I want to say around my 3rd year of college, I ended up getting an iPad. I got the iPad 10.5-inch Pro. That was one of the first iPads, I believe, where you can use the Apple Pencil 1 with, and that changed my whole life. That iPad actually got me very much drawn back into digital art, and it was probably like one of the, I still say this, but it's like one of the best investments I ever made, because I bought it by myself, for myself. It was very convenient because I would often use the iPad when we grabbed boba with friends. We used to go cafe sketching all the time, and it was just a convenient way of bringing professional work outside and like being able to like do work outside of the studio. And recently I got the iPad 2020 11-inch. It's the one with the big ass camera on the back. This one is with the Apple Pencil 2, which I really like because it connects via a magnet and I wouldn't lose it as often, and I almost lost the pen cap on my other one, which I really hated about that iPad. This paired with Procreate to me was like a very simplified way of being able to create professional work, because Procreate is like, it's essentially like Photoshop, but it's so much easier, because Photoshop was made for editing photos, and so it is good for painting, I would say, but as an illustrator that does the type of work that I do, I personally like the iPad Pro because it's so much more convenient, and I don't need a lot of like fancy features on my art program to make the work that I make today. And that brings us to this XP pen tablet. This actually has a screen on it, so it's not like my Wacom tablet. This is super thin for what it is. Like, if you've seen a Cintiq in person before, this is insanely thin for what a monitor tablet should be. Like, I don't even know. It's also very, very hefty. Like, it's very heavy. So I think I'm gonna just completely take this out of the picture, because although this is cool and some people like this, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I should probably sell it or something. It's just been sitting there for a while. But yeah, there's that. I'm gonna probably focus on the iPad and the Innovator16, because the iPad is something that I use for my professional practice today. So I'm gonna still compare all three pens, because this pen is the same one that the Cintiq has. So this actually came with a stand. I don't have the stand with me. It's at my parents' house. Inside the stand, there's like replacement nibs, and they had like, I believe, 4 different types of nibs, so that was kind of interesting. I liked experimenting with the different tips, but ultimately I still went with the original black plastic tip that just comes with it. I liked this pen a lot because it had a really nice grippiness, and it's also the thickest out of the 3 pens. I tend to like thicker pens because it doesn't cramp my hand as much when I'm drawing on the tablet. The top has a little eraser that I do not use at all, and there's 2 clicky buttons that I always turn off because it protrudes out so much that when I draw, I always accidentally click on it, and I really hate when that happens. The next pen, let's talk about the Apple Pencil. This is the heaviest pencil out of all 3, and I think Apple does a really good job at making things heavy, so it seems more expensive. I mean, it fools me, so it's very unique out of all the styluses I've ever seen because of how smooth it is. I really like the matte finish on this. At first I thought it would get scratched really easily, but it doesn't. They did have a function on this that I really didn't like, which was when you tapped here on the flat edge at near the nib, it has a function where you can change it to like an eraser or something. I took that off as well because I did not like accidentally pressing it while I'm drawing, which this was probably the stupidest decision out of all 3 of the pens. Like, at least this has like buttons you can click so you know it's there, but this one is like invisible. There's nothing. You literally just tap it and it's like switching your erasers. This just became like a very angsty review. And this is the last pen that came with the XP pen tablet. It comes in this carrier case, which is really cool. It's the lightest out of all 3 pens, surprisingly. Like, it barely feels like you're holding anything, which I like that too, because when you hold a heavier pen, it also sometimes cramps up your hand. It's a good in-between size out of all 3, I would say. Like, this is like a decent thickness to hold on to, and the silicone is a very matte, smooth finish, which doesn't lend a lot to grippiness. I personally think the buttons on this one work a lot better because it's a lot shallower. It's harder to accidentally press while you're drawing, so that on their end was really nice. And this one also comes with extra nibs on top, but they're all the same. They don't have different ones. And what I noticed with nibs is like the Apple Pencil for me never really wears down versus the Wacom. I'm not sure about the XP pen yet. I haven't used it long enough yet, but I'm assuming it's similar to the Wacom one. This one rubs down really fast. Like, mine is always kind of at a slant, so you always have to replace it, or you end up risking scratching the surface, which is too late for me. Mine is all scratched up now. Alright, so I think that's enough talking for my initial overview of what it is, but let's go to the unboxing. Okay, so here is the tablet itself. Oh, okay. I believe this is the stand that comes with it. Wow, this is such a cool container for a stylus. Okay, and then there's all these different plugs depending on where you live. And then it comes with a box. Ah, oh, that's really cute. Okay, so it comes with like a thing of postcards, and these are really shiny. It's like on a pearl print paper, and there's like stickers. I like how they included stickers with this because I love stickers. There's a guide. I believe this is the glove that you wear. Gave me a nice heavy pen. Some microfiber, a keychain of their little mascot. That's kind of interesting. And the cords. I'm gonna set this all up and then I will test it out, change the color a bit, and then I will tell you how it goes. Okay, so I'm gonna just set it up right now to show you. I have the XP pen stand right here. It's just a plastic stand. I believe I've watched other people's reviews and they actually like putting a book under it to make it higher, but I personally like my tablets to lay pretty flat at like a lower angle just because I feel like my arm cramps a lot easier the like higher it's positioned. This is also the height I use on my iPad, so that works best for me. I just put the tablet on the stand like so. So if you have the newest MacBook, you need an extension to use this device. So yeah, it comes with a monster of cords. I wish it didn't have this many cords, honestly, because it gets a little confusing, but I don't know if it's possible to reduce the amount of cords that this uses. So it comes with an HDMI, and connected to that one HDMI, it has the USB-C cord that connects to here, and it also has two USB cords. I only use one of them. I don't really understand what the other one does, if I'm being honest with you. It came with like a wall adapter. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I mean, it works just with the HDMI and the USB plugged in to my computer. And I just connect everything like that. And then I hide it behind because it's honestly so ugly. I hate cords. Okay, you plug the USB-C onto this side, and you plug this USB-C into your computer, and then press power, and then it just powers on like that. Hello, I'm currently in my bathroom trying to record this voiceover because it's the quietest area of my house. Okay, so I wrote a pros and cons list for this tablet. Let's get into the pros first. So my ultimate favorite part of this tablet is probably the texture of the screen and the experience of drawing on the screen. It has like this really nice grippiness that feels like you're drawing on paper, but it's not as intense as if you're using the paper-like screen protector for the iPad. I feel like the paper-like screen protector is very grainy and feels kind of like sandpaper when I draw on it. It's like way too textured, and the granulation makes the screen look very pixelated, which I really don't like about matte screen protectors. But the luster finish on this screen doesn't decrease the quality of like the screen. It doesn't feel like it's more pixelated because of it, so it's just like a really nice smooth finish, and I wish there was a screen protector like this for the iPad, but there isn't, sadly. Overall, the whole tablet just feels really nicely built. It has like a good build quality. The pen is super light and it doesn't require batteries. I watched a few of the previous XP pen reviews and they said that one of the things they didn't like about the pen was that you needed to charge it or include batteries to make it work, but this is totally like, you don't need to charge this pen, you don't need to insert batteries, it's good to go as is. And the pressure sensitivity of this pen on the tablet is great. I love it so much. It's very accurate. The one thing I would say is kind of annoying, but not really, is that sometimes when I click away from Photoshop and into like Google Chrome or something and I go back to Photoshop, the pressure sensitivity is like it turns off for like a second, but then it comes back pretty immediately, so that's not like a huge deal for me. But I'm like a very patient person, so I can see why I'm okay with a lot of things. Another thing is that you can power the device straight from your computer just by plugging the USB and the HDMI in. This makes it very portable if you want to bring your tablet around to places. But I do have to mention that when I plug those into my adapter for my laptop, if I plug in an external hard drive or a USB or something, I think that reduces the amount of energy going into my tablet, so it makes it impossible to use with the external hard drive plugged in, so you would have to plug it into the wall. I personally had to get used to the speed buttons, or not the speed buttons, but the hotkeys on the side of the tablet, because I'm used to Procreate having touch shortcuts, so having buttons on the side and having to like memorize which button is where, I'm still trying to get used to it. But I do feel like they're very helpful. For me, I do like using the keyboard for shortcuts, but I mean, I kind of interchange with which one I'm feeling like using that day. So I have mine set to like a few different toggles. I have one that increases brush size, one that decreases brush size, one that zooms in, one that zooms out. And on the bottom section, I have one for the hand, which you can drag the canvas around, one for eyedropper, one for redo, and one for undo. And those are like the main things I use when I draw. I don't really use any other shortcuts, and if I do, I just kind of like occasionally just like move my hand to my laptop and do it there. So overall, this is a really great like thin tablet, and it's a really nice size for me personally. I was never a huge fan of like the giant Cintiqs at school, because the way you draw on it is like you're exercising your entire shoulder, just like reaching from one end to the other. I personally like smaller tablets, and this is like a comfortable size for me. The last pro, which I think is a very nice thing, is that the tablet screen itself doesn't get warm on the like drawing section. The only place that it gets warm is the connection at the top left corner and like the bottom middle of the border, but it's not even like a hot warm, it's just like a subtle warm. And I really enjoy this because drawing on my iPad, sometimes it gets really warm, like an uncomfortable warm where I don't want to rest my palm on the screen. But on this tablet, it's always like this nice cool feeling, and it makes me feel like I can draw on it a lot longer than on my iPad. I feel like after I finish a drawing, my palm just feels all gross and warm, and yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. So now let's move on to the cons of this tablet, because nothing is ever really perfect. There's always room for improvement, especially for tools that people use. The first thing is I hate the touch wheel, because it just seems like a very inconvenient way to use this button wheel thing. Like, I feel like every time I use it, it just frustrates me. I just ended up turning it off entirely. I never liked the touch wheel on the Cintiq or Wacom tablets that I've used. It just gets annoying when you accidentally bump into it, and it's just not my thing. This next one, it bothered me a lot at first, but not as much anymore after I got used to using it. But it's that there's no touchscreen option, which now that I think about it, what would I even use the touch for? Because it's not like Procreate where I have touch shortcuts. So that's like a little thing, I guess. There's too many chords for this tablet, and I don't know if this is a thing that they can fix and like reduce into like a more compact chord system, but like there's four heads on the chords, so it gets kind of cluttered on the table. But if you're a very stationary person and you keep all your drawing things like pretty stationary and like you don't move around too often, I feel like this would be fine. You can just hide the chords somehow and just keep the tablet in place, but it does get kind of cluttered with it. Like, after I've set mine up and I don't feel like I'm gonna move it around too often, I think it's fine. But like initially when I saw it, it made me, like, it hurt me, because I feel like
it's just so messy. I hate cords, but I also hate wireless things because cordless, I hate charging things all the time, but with cords, it's so messy. So like this weird dilemma is just like in my head all the time. So the last thing I want to bring up is when I plug in the tablet into my computer, it does make my laptop sound like it's screaming because the fan is on like all the way high sometimes. And I don't know if it's because of the tablet itself or if it's because I'm using Photoshop and I'm watching YouTube videos and I'm doing all these different things on my laptop, but I do notice that it gets louder when it is plugged into my computer. So I always get nervous doing or like leaving it plugged into my computer if I'm not using it, because I'm always scared to like plug a lot of things into my laptop because I'm scared that it's gonna just drain my laptop's life. And I know technology has come a long way and I should just trust the electronic engineers doing their jobs and making sure nothing goes wrong. Like, I'm still scared to leave my phone plugged in overnight because I don't want the battery to die from it being plugged in all the time, but I'm pretty sure I'm just worrying too much about nothing. So I hope you enjoy my voiceover, and I'm gonna get out of my bathroom now.
So my final conclusion is, if you like laying in bed and going everywhere to work, the iPad Pro is probably the best option for you, because it is more portable than carrying tablets around that are very big. The only downside is that the iPad Pro is like, I want to say it was like $800 or $900 plus the Apple Pencil, which is $120. So that right there is almost like $1,000 plus buying the cases and everything. Compared to the XP Pen Innovator16, this one is around $499. It comes with the pen, replacement nibs, and everything. Both of these are able to achieve the type of art that you would want to make. You may be a bit more limited in the iPad because there's less functions, but that's mainly because of the program itself and not the device. I haven't tried the Photoshop on the iPad yet, but if it's very similar to the computer one, maybe this is enough. But if you're doing client work that maybe involves more programs that only computers and laptops are capable of using, like such as Maya or like 3D rendering programs, Illustrator, Photoshop, stuff like that, this really does make the process easier because you're able to draw on the screen. It connects great to the computer. I haven't experienced lag so far, but it is very early, so I haven't really seen if over time it starts lagging. Maybe I'll give an update in future vlogs if that starts happening. So I hope that was helpful for you, comparing all the tablets that I've ever used. And if you have any more questions that I didn't cover in this video, feel free to let me know in the comments and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. And I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week with another video. Bye, 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 bye.